Yo, it's Zero, and this will be the full movie for What If Naruto Was Like Killua. I hope you guys enjoy, and if you do, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and make sure to like the video and share it with others. Anyways, all my links, like before, will always be down below in the description. And if you have any questions or comments, put them down below. Without any more wait though, let's get started.
Let's get it. I'm a trapping fanatic, that shit automatic, so I cannot turn it on or off. Bitches all on my dick, then she hop on my dick. I'm like, why you keep hopping on and off? Yo, bitch all on my dick, she be doing the most. I tell her, little bitch, she so extra. And my gun up on me, but not run up on me. Niggas, they wanna fight, they some wrestlers. And you know 30K got the mop. Sacked up, yeah, I got them knots. Act up, get your body in a box. Told the demon, you know how.
So, in this story, not only will Naruto be a part of the Zoldyck family, so will Minato. This clan resides within the Leaf Village, and they were known as the bounty hunters of the Leaf Village. The Hokage was always in control of who they would attack and kill next. After the death of his parents, Naruto was taken into custody by the Zoldyck clan head. We skip to only about 4 or 5 years. Actually, yeah, 5 years seems pretty good to start. When we see Naruto, he was going through a brutal training with many of the elders within the clan. The boy was blindfolded and forced to fight, only using his senses, or what he could sense. However, the elders of the clan were so good at their movements that their steps, well, they made no sound. Naruto couldn't do anything. He was being hit, and he gained bruises and cuts all over his body. Silva, his adopted father, was about to halt the training until Naruto grabbed one of their wrists and broke it, while slamming the man to the ground. Silva stood up and smiled. "What do you think, Ilumi? How's your little brother coming along?" This is when we see a taller teen with long, white hair. He fights like a brute, but he is a prodigy. He might even be soon ready for missions, but he lacks the motivation. Have you asked him about any goals that he has? There needs to be something he's reaching to increase his strength. Silva thought about it and shook his head as he had never asked the boy. Turning back, he's surprised to see that the fight with the elders is more even now than before. Sure, they were holding back a lot, but Naruto's senses seemed sharper as he dodged and attacked with more accuracy. Not to mention the speed at which his attacks were coming from was just impressive. Silva will order them to stop, as they would just bow and walk away. Then he walked up to Naruto and asked what he wants to be when he gets older. Naruto looks at his father and then he says, "I'll be the strongest assassin to ever live within our family." Ilumi and Silva smirked as they only continued Naruto's training within the Leaf Village. And within the Leaf Village, the Zoldyck clan had never entered the academy as regular ninja. They stayed to themselves as the assassins in the shadows for the Leaf. Naruto's training would go until he was about 7, and it was very brutal. Things that pushed him to the edge, and it was almost to the point where he had been killed many times. And just so you guys can get a good idea of how dangerous this training was, we'll be going over one of the exercises that he had to do. During the winter, Silva took Naruto along with many others to a snowy mountain. The snow was so potent that it covered the area, making everything white and impossible to see where you were going. Naruto looked off the mountain and would then look at his father, asking how they would get back down. This is when Silva told the boy that they would be running down, chasing after Naruto. He would explain to Naruto that he has to make it down the mountain alive if he wants to be the strongest. Naruto takes off down the mountain, running as fast as he can, but it's not fast enough because as in seconds he could feel the pressure of his clan coming right after him. He kept running, dashing behind trees to not be spotted, but yet he had to duck under a punch from someone who was already in front of him. After that, he flipped over his brother, and then he kept running down, sliding down the mountain to increase his speed, dodging kunai and explosive tags that were thrown at him. Naruto, while running, could see a kunai coming at him, so he stopped, letting it fly across his face. But as he dodged it, it exploded, and he had to block it with his arms. This burned his skin, and well, it burned the skin off of his arms, leaving nasty scars that definitely hurt. However, Naruto rolled on the ground and looked up to see his father standing over him. Again, he would pick Naruto up, and each time he failed, he made him travel back up the mountain while being chased all over again, back up and down until he was able to do it. It took almost 2 whole weeks until Naruto was able to do it without being caught. After this, he would have more assassin training, like sneaking around and moving in silence and getting silent kills. Naruto's training would continue until he was 8 years old, and now we would enter the real fun. When Naruto wakes up one morning, his brother enters the room, and he throws clothes at him. It was a black hoodie that included a face mask to cover his mouth and black pants. Illumi looked at Naruto as he would then say, "Today is the day you prove yourself on if you are worthy to be a Zoldyck. I have faith in you though, so don't mess this up." Illumi would close the door and Naruto scoffed. "What a great pep talk, big bro." "Forget that, I'm just happy to go on missions today." Naruto puts on the clothes and waits for his father to come get him. Silva walks through the Zoldyck clan compound and he walks by his home, seeing his 2 sons standing at the door waiting on him, and then he motions his hands for them to follow him. As they walk towards the Hokage's place, the Hokage building, people stare at him and they would whisper. Naruto noticed this with his enhanced senses, but Silva told him not to worry, as they are just afraid of them. Naruto nods and they keep walking until they reach the Hokage's office. When they walked in, Hiruzen was surprised to see the clan head and his son. But who was this other younger boy, he would ask. Silva laughed, as many hadn't seen Naruto since he was born. So Silva introduces Naruto to the Hokage, and Naruto would bow while Hiruzen is shocked that this was Minato's son. Sure, the white hair made him look like a Zoldyck, but the pressure around Naruto made him feel like a killer. Hiruzen regains his composure, handing Silva a scroll. These are the details on the mission, but I'll explain the basics right now. And right now in the Land of Fire, out to the west, we have a family that is running a monopoly over a small town. This will be fine, yes, but they are raising the prices, causing starvation and death within the town. Illumi then says, "So, you want us to make that family disappear?" "Exactly, Illumi. So, don't worry about what happens to the town after you finish your mission, as I'll send many of my assets to help rebuild the town and get it back on its feet. So, will it be just the 3 of you this time?" Silva grabs a scroll while holding Naruto's head. "Yeah, and we'll get it done. Give us about 3 days. 1 day to get there, another to scout and plan, and a 3rd night to get everything done." Hiruzen nodded, wishing them luck, especially Naruto, as he tells him not to be nervous on his first mission. The Zoldyck family heads out and begins their journey west. They would run through the trees at top speeds, and Naruto could almost keep up, but there was no way his underdeveloped body could keep him right next to them, so he was only a couple jumps behind. They ran, not stopping at all, as their movements would go until the night when they reached the location. They would stop in a tree that was on a hill. From this hill, they could see the town and many people that walked around like zombies as they were begging for food. Naruto looked at it while his father would speak. "Get a good look at all of it, Naruto. Take it in. We exist to make their lives better, as well as many other people. And the only way to help these people is to become stronger and stronger, which is your goal." Naruto nods, and this is when Illumi tells him to stand up. Naruto would watch his father sit down as he was kind of confused. Illumi then said, "Father does not scout. He is the clan head, and we don't want his identity to be revealed, so we do the scouting. We'll wait until night, and then we'll scout." Another day would pass, and night would fall, as he then says, "Naruto, I want you to cover this half towards the north, while I cover the closer part towards the south. Don't be seen, and if you are, kill whoever sees you and hide the body. You should know the rules by now." Naruto's expression was serious, almost to the point where Silva would worry how he would do, but Illumi said this is perfect. This way he'll perform above our expectations. The moon would rise, and Naruto would as well, as before Illumi could tell him to go, Naruto vanished in a blur, running around the town and getting to the north side where a large building was. Sitting in a tree, looking at all the windows he could get in from. Then he saw a skinny man inside who had both of his hands together begging for something until he was thrown out of the building by 2 guards. Naruto's blood would boil as he would then continue his scouting, holding himself back from starting the killing. After a while, Naruto returns to Silva and his brother. He reports what he found and how no one spotted him, so Silva tells both of them to wait one more day and then they can go in. We skip to the next night when all three of them will be getting ready to start. Silva tells them that he'll give them a 1-minute head start, and Illumi grabs his brother, running off, as Naruto would continue to run right behind Illumi. Naruto would ask what he meant, but Illumi explains that their father was a master assassin, so he gives them a head start before he comes in and finishes the job. He tells Naruto that his job is to find the main boss and finish him off. That'll definitely get him some high marks with their father. Naruto understands and he picks up his speed as Illumi would enter through one way and Naruto would find another. He jumps in through one of the windows, looking around as he would then walk through the halls where he found a maid. She would see him and Naruto walks towards her, allowing his bloodlust to leak through the halls as Naruto walks past her, ripping out his heart, or her heart, and then continued on. He found the largest room as he would walk in, and he sees someone who is sleeping. Naruto walked in slowly, making his nails sharper, as Naruto saw the very same man from before who told the guard to kick the skinny man out of the home. So, Naruto would then step on his chest, waking the man up as all he could see was a small child in a hoodie standing over him, as Naruto would then sit on his chest and slit his throat. After the blood began to pour out of his mouth and his neck, Naruto threw a pillow over his head, and then he stepped on it, allowing the man to suffocate as well. Eventually, someone walked in, as it was Naruto's father, and Naruto turned his head, pulling his mask down, as then Silva could see it, the side of Naruto's face with blood on it, as he tells the boy that it's time to go, and Naruto would then show a cold smile that he's been keeping on his face ever since he got to kill that man. It's such a satisfactory feeling to him, as Naruto would then point at a window that leads directly outside of the town, and Illumi walks in the room, seeing what his brother had done, congratulating him, and the three would leave, returning back to the Leaf Village, and missions like this would continue on until Naruto was about 11 or 12 years old. Most of the students at the academy were graduating by now, and you noticed that there was a slot open. Hiruzen would have a meeting with Silva to ask for his approval, and the man agreed, saying Naruto should master both his ninja and assassin side. Hiruzen liked that perspective and met up with Naruto later that day and handed him a leaf headband. Naruto wouldn't wear it as no one in his clan wore it, but he kept it, thanking the man, as Hiruzen would then tell Naruto that he tells him where to go next morning, saying that he was on Team 7. The next day, Naruto wouldn't meet up with his team in the academy, as they had already done that the previous day, as he would meet them in an open field. Naruto arrived to see a pink-haired girl and an Uchiha. Naruto knew about this clan as they were a strong clan, and he liked that. Too bad they were wiped out though, as he did want to fight a couple of the strongest ones. Now, there was only one that he knew of. Kakashi would arrive and instantly he noticed that Naruto was there, and he waved at him, saying that the Hokage sent him. Kakashi wondered who this kid was, as he had never seen him before, and then he saw his white hair, meaning that he was from one of the most feared clans in the great nations. Naruto introduced himself to his team, and Sakura actually liked him, seeing him, as not annoying. Kakashi then explained the bell test, and all of them would hide when it starts. Sasuke and Sakura look around as Naruto didn't hide with them, and they didn't know where he hid. Where was he hiding? Sakura and Sasuke would then later be found by Kakashi, who attacks them. Sasuke is able to dodge and counter a couple attacks, but his sensei was strong. However, from behind Kakashi, a blur flew past him as Naruto grabbed the bells. When he turned around, he wondered, how did Naruto do that? No, how did he conceal himself that well? Naruto then tossed the bells back at his sensei, saying, I would rather fight you for them. Naruto then vanished again, and from the trees above Kakashi, he could see the after images of Naruto dashing around him at great speeds. Suddenly, all of them brushed down as they would go into one body as the real Naruto caught him off guard and hit him with an uppercut. Kakashi would turn into a log, but Naruto flipped back into the air to avoid a grab. Because Kakashi was underground, reaching up as Naruto would flip up, and when he looks back down, they would clash fists. Grabbing Kakashi by his wrist, he threw him to the side, almost into a tree, but the white-haired sensei regained his composure, landing on the tree and then rushing back at Naruto, this time performing a lightning jutsu that extended and shocked Naruto. As it hit him, Naruto smiled, standing as there was no effect at all. What was this kid, Kakashi thought. There's no way he was immune to lightning. Kakashi then turned to see a fireball heading right at him. As quick as he could, he performed the hand signs for a mud wall, barely blocking the flames. Kakashi stood still, as he then realized he shouldn't have taken his attention away from Naruto, as he could see the white-haired boy in the corner of his eye. But it was too late. Naruto sharpened his nails and slashed across Kakashi's chest, causing blood to fly in the air. But while it was being cut, the sensei managed to counter right after by kicking Naruto's shoulder so hard that it slanted him through the mud wall and towards his other teammate. After this happened, Naruto smiled again, seeing a hand in his face as Sasuke helped him up to stand. He didn't know who Naruto was or where he came from, but he was strong, and he wasn't in his way. Naruto never had to work in a team, as everyone in his family usually did their own things on missions, but this was a nice change of pace for him. He kinda liked it, as Sasuke was strong, and he had something that Naruto wasn't used to. He was using jutsu. Sure, his family did know how to use jutsu, but they never really performed them, so this actually surprised Naruto and intrigued him more, as he wanted to learn some as well. He would then tell Sasuke to do that jutsu again, as Sasuke nodded, beginning to form the hand signs as he shot flames at Kakashi again, but this time, Naruto ran behind the flames as Kakashi would turn, performing a water jutsu that created steam and smoke after hitting the flames. He looked around for Naruto, however, this fight was over. Because he didn't have his Sharingan active, he couldn't see through the smoke. This allowed Naruto to get as close as possible, hitting the pressure points on his body, making him fall to the ground. Naruto then took the bells again, tossing one of them to Sasuke. Naruto then walked over to the black-haired boy and held his hand up in the air, as Sasuke would actually give him a high five. With a slight smirk, the two turned back to see Kakashi laying on the ground for just a bit longer until he sat up. He then explained that they passed, even though they forgot to include their other teammate. He tells them that the bell test was designed for teamwork, and those two actually worked quite well together. Eventually, Kakashi would stand as he tells them that he needs to rest for about a day until he gets his injuries taken care of. But then, he told them that they would soon start missions. So, here's where they do their boring missions for about 2 weeks until Naruto spoke up about it. Naruto would ask if there are any other missions available besides saving cats. Going from killing people at night to saving cats in the day, well, it was quite boring after all, and he didn't like how it changed. So, Kakashi told his team to follow him. They went to the Hokage's office where they met the bridge builder Tazuna. The team would decide to leave the next morning, as then they would head out. And that night, Naruto told his brother and father about his new mission. They would then tell Naruto to keep up his training as he was traveling. Naruto the next day would meet up with his team as they would leave out of the village gate. After walking for a while, Kakashi would be attacked by the Demon Mist brothers, and he would quote-unquote be killed by them. This is when Sasuke and Naruto turn around, each attacking a Mist brother. Naruto jumps on his shoulders and uses both of his hands to spin his head around, killing him, and then he looks over at Sasuke, who killed the other with a kunai. The two walk over to one another, smiling, as Naruto then points at the bushes where Kakashi would walk from, showing them that he wasn't dead. He tells the two that he did a good job reacting after his fake death, but they told him that they knew he wasn't dead. After all, he did survive what was going on a couple days prior, or when they did the bell test. Kakashi would then question Tazuna, who tells the team what they need to know. They would continue on to the Land of Waves, and eventually, Kakashi tells them to duck. Naruto instead turns his body and grabs the large blade that was thrown at them. It's pretty heavy, but at the same time, it's pretty light. This is when Zabuza appears right next to the boy, trying to punch him in the face, but Naruto dodged, kicking up at Zabuza's extended arm, breaking it and pushing the bone upwards. Zabuza jumped back, holding the arm in pain, and this is when Naruto gets an idea to try something. He had never done it before, but he's sure he could. Because of the torture he went through as a child with electricity, he should be able to use it. Naruto does some hand signs, and sparks begin to form in his hands until they disappear again. Naruto looks over at the injured Zabuza, who's just sitting there waiting. So Naruto walks over to his sensei, as he would then ask Kakashi to show him the lightning hand signs and to show him the jutsu again. Naruto would then watch as Kakashi forms lightning on one hand and runs at Zabuza. The Mist Ninja would wait for the right moment and then put Kakashi within a water prison jutsu. We look back at Naruto, who was performing different hand signs until his body glowed, allowing electricity to surge around him. His hair would spike up and Naruto would smile. So, that's how you do it. Alright, well, hold on, Kakashi-sensei. I'm coming. Naruto began to walk forward with with Sasuke by his side, and the two began to rush at Zabuza. But Sasuke noticed that Naruto wasn't running with him. Naruto kept walking as he was in a similar form to Godspeed, until Naruto vanished from everyone's sight, surprising even Sasuke, who was ahead of him, as he then reappeared in front of Zabuza with an evil smirk upon his face. Naruto reappeared right in front of Zabuza in his, we'll basically just be calling it Godspeed. So, as the lightning surrounded him, his arm was stretched out to Zabuza, about to pierce his heart, until Naruto vanished again, this time dodging ice that came out of nowhere. Naruto looked over to see a masked man. Oh, some more fun. As Naruto tried to jump forward, he fell to one knee as Godspeed would disappear from around his body. What? No way. I thought I had a couple more seconds. Sasuke ran over to Naruto and shot flames at the masked man, who jumped out of the tree and grabbed Zabuza. This left Kakashi on the ground, regaining his breath as he was just trapped in the water prison jutsu. He looks at his team, and he told them that they need to go on and they need to start training because they have to get ready to fight those two. After arriving at Tazuna's house, hours later the team would start their training, and this time, since Kakashi isn't as exhausted, it would actually go better. But here is where Naruto went to train alone, as he already knew how to walk on trees and water. Right now, he wanted to perfect his Godspeed, trying to use it to its fullest potential. He wanted to use it without burning all of his chakra and stamina. Eventually, Naruto would pass out from chakra exhaustion, and this is when he woke up to see a woman picking flowers. The woman would ask Naruto what he was doing, but Naruto jumps up and throws a kunai that the woman catches. I thought as much. I'll see you soon, masked man. Naruto would wave and then disappeared, causing Haku to get angry, throwing the kunai back into a tree. Another day of training would go by until we have Team 7 upon the bridge. When they arrived like usual, they saw the dead citizens who were supposed to be building the bridge. But when they looked forward, Naruto saw the masked man and Zabuza. So Kakashi-sensei, do you want to fight Zabuza again or the one with the mask? I'll let that be up to you three to choose. Naruto looks at Sasuke and the two rush at Haku while Zabuza runs past them towards Kakashi. In an instant, they are trapped within the crystal ice mirrors and are forced to dodge Senbon from all directions. For a moment, Naruto was actually doing way better than Sasuke, and Sasuke really struggled to keep up, and then someone else noticed this. As Sasuke was about to get hit by multiple Senbon, Sakura pushed him out of the way and took the full force of the attack, as she would then fall to the ground, and both Naruto and Sasuke watched her body hit the concrete, as she didn't move after. Each of them then had a rage explode from within them. Sasuke's Sharingan will be reawakened, while Naruto entered Godspeed with a killer intent. You might be wondering why he doesn't interact with Kurama here. Well, Naruto hasn't gotten that close to his teammates to feel that type of pain, but he does feel a little bit of anger for this. The two would vanish as they start breaking all the mirrors at high speeds, and Naruto jumps towards one of them, grabbing Haku, forcing him out, and then stabs him with his whole arm through his chest. Naruto looks at Sasuke, who nods, creating a fireball, and Naruto would turn Haku's body, using it as a meat shield, as this would finally kill the ninja. While Sasuke runs over to check up on Sakura, Naruto would run over to help Kakashi. Kakashi would almost be finished with Zabuza until he sees Naruto walking up to the man. Kakashi would stop as he then watched Naruto phase right by him, and then Zabuza looks down at his chest to see a hole in it, as he was now missing his heart, and he would fall over to the ground as he saw Naruto hold it up, and then he threw it into the water. Well, isn't that unfortunate? The ninja would be dead, and Naruto tells Kakashi to go check up on those two. As he walks past Naruto, the boy noticed a bunch of people that were now on the bridge. It was Gato and his men. Naruto smiled, walking towards them with a cold look in his eyes. A sinister smile would appear on his face as he ran towards them. One of the bandits tried to swing a blade, but Naruto blocked it and then kicked his head. All of the others would back up, but Naruto pursued them as well, as he sharpened his nails, as he then slashed through he slashed through them with ease, killing multiple people at once. But then, at the end of it, Naruto's hair was no longer white, as it was fully red, stained with the blood of those he killed. Luckily, Sakura wasn't dead, so the team would rest for another day, and then they would stay until the bridge was fully built, and after that, they would depart from the land of waves back to the Leaf Village. Once they were back home, each of them goes on to do their own thing, and Naruto will return to his clan, as he reports to his father on the mission, and Silva congratulates his son, where Illumi would ask was Naruto going to participate in the upcoming Chunin exams. Naruto says he doesn't know anything about it, but it sounds exciting. Illumi would then explain that he didn't know many of his shinobi friends who actually did it. Well, that was a long time ago, but he says he does remember. And he says Naruto should be able to win it without a single problem. The next day, when Naruto goes to meet up with his team, he bumped into a kid with red hair. Neither of them spoke, and they only stared at one another until each of them walked by. Kakashi would sign up his team for the exams, and he wishes them luck, but it's not going to be as easy as they think it is. Naruto and Sasuke were fired up, however their other teammate was cautious, seeing as she almost died on their last mission. But since she is so hesitant, Kakashi actually offers to train her before the exams. He invites the other two students as well, but they said they'll be declining as they want to be at full strength before the exams. We skips past the written test as much of that would go the same, and now we have Team 7 within the Forest of Death. They kept running until Naruto noticed some footprints on a tree, as he tells his team to follow him as they would track these footprints all the way to the 3 Sand siblings. Naruto smiles, seeing the same kid from the day before. You again. I guess it was fate we'd meet here. Naruto rushes at Gaara, who sends sand at him that he easily evades, getting close so that he prepared to attack, but he saw Tamari and Kankuro getting ready to attack him. However, Sasuke and Sakura jumped in to hold them off, and Naruto vanished again. Gaara looked around, but then he felt blood dripping on his body as he had scratches all over him. The boy then began to scream out in rage, causing Team 7 to jump back into the trees. This is when Naruto heard the scream of Sasuke, who fell over, as Naruto would turn his head looking up to see a snake-like man who just bit Sasuke and left a strange mark on him. Naruto jumped up to help, but he was knocked away by a giant snake, and after hitting multiple trees, Naruto had stopped. Then he looked where he was, as he was very far, so he activated Godspeed, running back to the area where his team was. However, the snake was so persistent that it forced Naruto to kill it. Then he went back to his team, as Sasuke was on the ground and Gaara was passed out as well because Orochimaru did temporarily seal the power of his tail beast. Knowing that he'll need it later for his plans, that's why it's temporarily sealed. Naruto would look at the ground. Instead of the footprints, he saw snake marks, so Naruto followed them with great speed until he caught up with the Sannin. Naruto was moving so fast because he ran past Orochimaru and ripped off one of his arms. The Sannin stopped, as he had to face a new opponent, and he looked at his white hair. An assassin trying to be a ninja. How cute. I'll remind you why you should stay within your clan. However, when Orochimaru tried to stab Naruto, he vanished as he was now sitting on his shoulder. After this, Naruto would use his hands to snap his neck, and then he would flip onto a tree. His Godspeed was gone by now, so he watched over the body of Orochimaru, who would be sitting in thought. I can feel his eyes piercing my soul. If I make any movements, he'll know I'm not dead and attack me again. I can't risk losing to a mere child assassin here. His thoughts were interrupted by the screams of Sakura, and Naruto heard this as well as he would turn that way, and he only threw an explosive kunai down as he would run off. He would make it back to the area where Sakura had taken Sasuke's body, and he sees her, surrounded by 3 ninja. Naruto would look around for Sasuke, but he wasn't anywhere. You see, as Naruto arrived, Sasuke would have woken up, and he kicked the girl away from Sakura. After that, he beat up the sound team and broke 2 arms on one of them. Naruto saw Sasuke as the Uchiha would walk up to him staring at him, as then he would say, "Is this a challenge, Sasuke? Because I've never been one to back down from any fight." Naruto's cold stare, combined with his immense bloodlust and intense aura, snapped Sasuke out of his rage and put fear in him. Naruto saw this and went back to his normal state as he would look at the scroll that was left by the team as they were no longer there. And Team 7 then decided to head to the tower to make it early so they could rest for a little bit. So that's what they did, and now we would have the preliminary matches, which would go the same until we have Sakura versus Ino. I'm not saying she would win the battle, but it would still be a tie. But more of the battle would be in her favor, but she would lose due to her cocky personality, or tie. But if you go from a win to a tie, you lost in my books. Then we would have Naruto versus Cuba. Illumi and Silva arrived just in time from their mission to see Naruto's fight. They watched him jump to the center of the arena, and his gaze turned to them as he would wave. Illumi smirked. "It looks like he was expecting our arrival, father." "Seems that's the case, but who is he fighting?" Naruto would look at his opponent as a fight would now begin. Because of his training and how he was raised, Naruto was never the type to hold back on any opponent, no matter the strength. So, this fight started with Naruto vanishing from Kiba's gaze as he wasn't able to keep up, and then he grabbed his face, slamming him to the ground so hard it cracked the concrete and knocked him out. Silva would start laughing as Naruto would be declared the winner, but Illumi was curious on how fast Naruto had truly become. As he remembers, Naruto was never this fast. It seems that unlocking this power and doing his speed training, well, it seems that had done it for him. But he does enjoy seeing his brother dominate these so-called shinobi. Illumi and Silva would leave, knowing that Naruto won the fight, and Naruto smiled as he would run back up the wall, sitting with his friends who congratulated him on his win. As the fight between Rock Lee and Gaara commenced, Naruto noticed Lee's speed without the weights, and he decided that he's gonna train like that. So, the remaining participants will be given 3 weeks to train, and around this time, Naruto wouldn't train with Jiraiya, as he would stay within his clan doing missions or participating in his weighted training. 3 weeks would go by fast, and now we have all the fighters back at the arena for round 2 of the Chunin exams, and the first fight would be announced to be Neji versus Naruto. The fighters stepped down, and Naruto smirked. So, another clan, he wondered. Well, was the Hyuga strong as they claimed to be? Well, there was no point in guessing now, as I stand in front of one of them. Before the fight actually started, Naruto sat down and pulled up on his long pants, revealing weights. But on closer inspection, my guy realized that these were the weights that Rock Lee took off during his fight. There's no way Naruto took them and actually was able to use them. Naruto would throw the weights so hard to the side that each of them hit a side of the arena. Naruto then began jumping as he felt so much lighter than before, as now he could go all out. Illumi and Silva would talk about how the fight is over, but they still wanted to stay for Naruto's support, and they sat near the Hyuga. But many of the Hyuga would ask them to explain why they thought so, but Illumi would point out that Naruto has been going on dangerous missions with them for the 3 weeks, while having those weights on. All the Hyuga then looked shocked as they turned back to see Naruto overwhelming Neji. Even with the 360 palm rotation, Neji could not stop the speed of Naruto. Each attack he landed was a heavy hitter, and it did a bunch of damage. To everyone watching, Naruto was going all out, but to the people that knew him, he wasn't even using his full speed, as Naruto would then sharpen his nails and electricity formed around his body as he entered Godspeed. Naruto's smile finally appeared on his face, as he now moved so fast that no one could even see him around the arena. Well, except for those with special Kekkei Genkai and fighters who could keep up with that type of speed. All everyone else saw was a blur rushing past Neji and knocking him around over and over. Naruto would then spin at Neji as he landed a kick that was so powerful it not only broke his jaw, but sent him flying into the wall. Neji went completely through the stadium wall. Naruto then walked away from the center of the arena, looking up at his brother and his father, who were getting up and leaving. The next match would be announced to be Sasuke, but he wasn't there, so they went on with Shikamaru versus Tamari, where he would give up as usual. And after this fight would be Sasuke, when Sasuke would arrive with Kakashi, in their flashy entrance as usual. Naruto, who was leaning on the railing, smiled. Of course he would be flashy like that. Seems like the more I get to know you, the more I know that we truly are different. Sasuke's fight would start, and much of it goes the same, as then feathers would fall from the sky, as many people in the stands start to fall asleep, and Naruto looked over to all the sleeping people, and some of the ninjas who fell asleep. Weaklings, and they call themselves shinobi. A loud crash would be heard near the north side of the village, where the gate was, and this is when the snakes would come in, as now the Konoha Crush would begin. Naruto saw Gaara and Sasuke leave the arena, but he also saw the Sand siblings chasing after Sasuke. Naruto would smirk as he would follow them to make sure no one interrupted his teammates' battle. Naruto caught up to the Sand siblings and kicked Kankuro to the ground while putting Tamari in a chokehold. Now he would step on Kankuro's back, pushing him further into the ground as he would hold her until both of them were knocked out. And Naruto would continue forward until he saw Sasuke about to be killed. Using his speed, he would grab Sasuke and then he put him to a safe location. Good, now I'll be back, Sasuke. Then he would run back to Gaara, who sent more sand his way. Naruto would jump from tree to tree to avoid the attacks and wondered if he should kill Gaara. Would it be that bad if he did? I mean, there was no one here to stop him. The white-haired boy uses his speed, and he uses it to confuse the Sand Jinchuriki, and then he conceals his presence behind a tree so that he can't be felt within the area. Gaara's reaction would be twisting and turning, wondering where Naruto would come from next, but then it suddenly happened, as Gaara could feel all the anger, all the bloodlust coming from right behind him. There was no way he could dodge. This was it. His life was over. This angered Gaara. Why would he die here? By this insect? There's no way he could. Which in turn would cause him to transform into his tail beast that blew Naruto away. Naruto would be laying against a tree that he was knocked into that was on the ground, as he would then look up at the giant tail beast. Well, isn't that great? He's throwing an even bigger temper tantrum than before. And now I have to get all the way up to his head to cut it off. Alright, so how should I do it? Should I cut off his head or should I rip it off? Maybe I should snap his neck. No, wait. Naruto then turned his head to see the Sand siblings that woke up not too long ago, as they would beg for Naruto not to kill their brother. Naruto would ask what he gets in return, and they say they would give him anything he wants. So, Naruto would say they have to shake his hands and make it a promise. No, a deal, or he'll come and kill them. So, they would shake Naruto's hands and he would vanish, and he starts to run up the one-tailed beast from his feet, as the Sand would try to pull him under, but Naruto moved so fast and his feet were so strong that the Sand could not hold him, as he would then get all the way up to the head of Gaara, as Naruto would kick Gaara's head, knocking him out, causing the Sand to vanish, and the two would begin to fall through the air, as Naruto would then kick Gaara towards trees so that he would have a soft landing. And then he would go to Sasuke and take him back to the Leaf where the fighting had stopped. Days go by and the Leaf would be trying to figure out who the next Hokage would be. The elders would be in a meeting about it until Jiraiya himself entered. He presented the idea of Tsunade Senju being the next Hokage, and they did like it and agreed. But before the meeting concluded, Jiraiya asked where the son of the fourth Hokage was. They would tell him that he's in care of the Zoldyck clan, so Jiraiya would head there first before leaving. As he entered the compound, the air was tense as he got stares from everyone, as they wondered if he was a Zoldyck since he did have white hair, and he would ask around for the clan head, which gave it away that he wasn't. So, this almost angered them, as no one really entered their compound like that unless they wanted something. So, he eventually bumped into a kid with white hair who we knew as Naruto, but he didn't know who this was. As Naruto would then say, "I heard you're asking around for the clan head." "Yeah, do you know where I can find him?" "Sure, follow me." Jiraiya would walk behind the boy asking him questions until he was led into a dark room. Naruto would then knock out Jiraiya, who woke up De Silva and Ilumi. Where am I?" "Shut up, we'll do the questions. Why were you looking for me?" "I heard you're in care of Naruto, and I'd like him to come with me to get the next Hokage." "Is that so? Well, it sounds like an S-class mission. Will doing this mission grant Naruto a higher rank within the ninja system?" Jiraiya will confirm that after they bring the Hokage back, he'll ask her personally. Silva would then untie Jiraiya as he calls Naruto into the room. Naruto walks in and Jiraiya would say that's the kid from before, but Naruto shrugs his shoulders, saying he's never met this man before. The two would then leave that day on their mission to go bring back Lady Tsunade. After a day or so of travel, they would stop into a town where they would check into a hotel, and Jiraiya would leave Naruto in the room by himself as he says that he'll be back in about 30 minutes would pass. And this is when Naruto hears a knock on the door. We start the story back with the knock at the door, which causes Naruto to become cautious. Naruto gets on the ceiling and conceals his presence while also throwing books out of the window. This is when Itachi and Kisame bursted into the room to see the broken window. This is when Naruto would also jump down and rips off the arm of Kisame while flipping back into the hallway and throwing it to the side. "You guys look like fun. You damn brat. Now I'll kill you." Kisame would grab his blade with his only arm and jumps back at Naruto, who counters, kicking the blade up into the air and punching Kisame in the face. Itachi would try to grab Naruto, but he dodges and slams his foot into his side. Naruto's movements were too quick for them to keep up with. "Come on guys, the fight already started, so don't bore me already." However, from behind the two Akatsuki members, Naruto could see Sasuke running up with the Chidori in his hand. As he was about to hit Itachi, the teen bursts into crows and flies around Sasuke as he was put into a genjutsu. Naruto ran over to help, and this is when the blade of Kisame will be inches from his neck. A blue aura of speed and lightning appears, and then Sasuke disappears from Itachi's grasp, who tilts his head, and then he sees Naruto standing in front of Sasuke. "Fine, I'll handle both of you." Naruto gets prepared to jump into the battle, but Itachi sees the approaching Jiraiya from behind Naruto, and this is when he and Kisame would retreat. Naruto turns around and picks up Sasuke, telling Jiraiya that he'll be back, as he would take him back to the Leaf, and then he comes back to the hotel, and the two would continue their mission to find Tsunade, who they would find at she would be drunk at a bar. Jiraiya, after some small talk, would ask her to become the next Hokage, as she would refuse. Naruto would ask her why she wouldn't want to become the Hokage. Is it because she can't handle the pressure of the job, or does she have a better job right now? She would tell the boy that she's more than capable of enough of doing it. She just doesn't want to. Naruto would get up as he would say, "Maybe you're just scared of something." "You think a woman like me is scared to be the Hokage? There's nothing scary about that position anymore." "Oh really? You know, I may be far from the Hokage position, but my father has always told me to never be afraid of my failures because they will cloud my judgment." Naruto would then exit the restaurant or the bar, and then he checks into a hotel room as Tsunade began to tear up, thinking about her loved ones who had died in the past and how she couldn't save them. She then has a breakdown, causing her assistant to take her away from the bar and check back into their own hotel. Tsunade laid next to an open window, crying, as this is when Naruto would appear again. "So, it seems I touched a nerve. You know, my father also said something else about my failures. Then I forgot to tell you. He said if I do fail and it upsets me that much, I should work harder to never let it happen again. She would look up at Naruto, whose white hair swayed in the wind as it reflected the moonlight, being brighter than before. Anyway, I think you'd make a great Hokage, but I can't force you to become one. Naruto would vanish, and the next day, she would meet up with Orochimaru, and as she was about to heal his hands, Kabuto jumped in to save Orochimaru, as it wasn't a healing jutsu. And this is when Naruto appeared in front of Tsunade as he took a hit for her head on. She would ask what he's doing, but Naruto smirked. I can't let the future Kage fight alone. It'll be my job to protect you once I'm the clan head. Naruto then looked at Kabuto and kicked him back. He's mine. You and Jiraiya can fight Orochimaru. Naruto would dash forward and kept a rapid flow of attacks that landed. In thought, Kabuto would say, how can he be that fast? I don't remember him during the exam, so... No, his white hair, that's why. Kabuto would then barely manage to dodge an attack, and this time he grabbed Naruto's wrist. He tried to lift him off the ground to slam him back into it, but Naruto felt heavy as a boulder, and then he looked into the boy's eyes. Naruto had sharpened his nails and stabbed his hand through the center of Kabuto's chest, making him cough up a lot of blood, as Naruto would then rip out his hand. And this is when Orochimaru noticed, as he would dodge attacks from both Tsunade and Jiraiya before dashing past Naruto and rescuing Kabuto. After this, Tsunade would tell the two that she will become the Hokage, and Naruto would smile. And when they returned to the leaf, she was made the 5th Hokage, and then Naruto would be made a Chunin by her. Tsunade would also heal everyone who was in the hospital and injured, and this is the time around when Naruto would go to visit Sasuke. He arrives to see Sasuke slapping food out of Sakura's hand. Naruto then walks over to see the food on the ground as he would crouch down to it and looks back up at Sasuke. Man, you didn't eat any of it. What a waste. It looks so good too. Sasuke then got out of the bed and grabbed Naruto by his shirt, lifting him so that their eyes would meet. Are you making fun of me? Naruto's eyes would then meet Sasuke's glare. Are you picking a fight? If you really want to do this, we can go to the rooftop. Sasuke nods and get up as the two would now be seen on the rooftop, and Sakura will be telling them not to fight. As Sasuke jumps at Naruto using his Sharingan, but Naruto jumped, grabbing Sasuke and throwing him back. The Uchiha then performed a Chidori in a blind rage and tried to stab Naruto through his chest. However, Naruto did nothing. Sasuke would then look up at Naruto, who remains still, as Naruto would remind him that lightning has no effect on his body. Naruto then slammed the top of his foot into Sasuke's neck, sending him back into the railing which was on the rooftop. Sasuke would lay there, and Sakura would go over to check on him as Naruto would leave, heading back to the Hokage's office where he would be given his Chunin vest. And at night is when Sasuke would leave with the Sound 4, and Sakura would tell Tsunade in the morning, as Tsunade would call Naruto back into her office where he would see Cuba, Rock Lee, Shikamaru, Neji, and Choji. Naruto, you'll be leading this squad on a mission to bring back Sasuke Uchiha. Kill anyone that stands in your way but him. Do your best to bring him back alive, even if he becomes injured. I have gathered those who I think could be a big help to your journey. So, are you ready to lead them? Naruto looks around and smirks. We'll be back tonight. We might have Sasuke or we might not. I can't guarantee because who knows if that man will show up, as she knew he meant Orochimaru. So she wished him luck as Naruto would smile, turning around, and he waved his hand so that his team would follow him. And this is where most of the Sasuke retrieval arc would remain the same until we have Naruto catching up to Sasuke in the Valley of the End. Sasuke would enter the Curse Mark Stage 2, and he gets a massive power-up along with the transformation. Naruto would then match him, entering Godspeed, as the two would both have a massive power-up. And the fight starts as he was matching the power of Naruto, just not the speed, but thanks to his Sharingan, that would counter that as well. Each punch or kick that Naruto sent was blocked by the Uchiha as he would land attacks on Naruto. Naruto knew that he couldn't take the fight lightly, so he decided to start using some of his assassin techniques. Sasuke would kick him to the side, and Naruto got up, beginning to walk around the Uchiha, creating after images of himself, making it harder for Sasuke to figure out which one was really him. Sasuke didn't want to wait, so he jumped into the air, sending a fireball jutsu down at all of them. But when he looked back down, Naruto wasn't there. From behind him, in mid-air, Naruto kicked him back into the water. The white-haired boy would stand over the very same spot and waited for Sasuke to reappear. The Uchiha rose out of the water and slammed his fist into Naruto's chest and then continued to land more attacks, seeming stronger than before as he relied more and more on the curse mark's power. It got to the point where Naruto wasn't able to block or dodge any of the attacks coming his way, and now he laid on his back while Sasuke stood over him on the water. The Uchiha pulled out a kunai and was ready to end it all, but time stood still within Naruto's mind as he woke up in front of a gate, and this is when he saw the nine-tailed fox on the other side. The beast snarled at Naruto, who walked closer to the cage as he was intrigued by it. "Why are you in a cage? Your father put me here, you brat. So you can't leave?" "No, it's not that simple. If I were to leave, I'd take over your body and destroy it." Naruto then began to laugh. "So, it looks like I'm losing because he got a free power-up. I hate to say it, but right now he's just a little bit stronger than me. What do you think I should do?" Actually, let me rephrase that. What do you think I should do besides killing him? As that was clearly, well, I clearly can't do that. And then the Nine-Tails would say, he wouldn't say anything. He would scoff, saying it's not his problem, and Naruto would say, what if he was captured and the Nine-Tails were resealed into another person? The fox stood up and looked down at Naruto and told him to walk closer to the cage. As Naruto got as close as he could without entering, an orange chakra would then surround him as he would then begin to wake up. As Sasuke was about to stab his throat with a kunai, well, his wrist was grabbed by Naruto, who opened his now red eyes. Let's have some more fun. Naruto's aura erupted once again, and Sasuke was pushed back as he would now enter Godspeed, but this time, an orange aura and orange lightning surrounded his body instead of blue, as Sasuke wondered where this power came from. But before he could finish this thought, Naruto grabbed both his arms and pulled himself forward, extending his knee, slamming it into Sasuke's face, probably breaking his nose, as Naruto moved faster and faster, hitting Sasuke over and over. Now the tables had truly turned, and there was no way for Sasuke to compete. This was until Orochimaru showed up with more sound shinobi that were used as decoys while Naruto killed them. The two of them, would get away, and Naruto looked around as he looked around for the footsteps, but they'd covered their own tracks, and Naruto would return and gather his team as they were unsuccessful in their mission, but they did their best. Naruto would return to his clan compound where his father would sit down with them, and Silver would ask Naruto what he needed, and Naruto would ask his father to help him master the tail beast, as he needs to become stronger than Sasuke with his curse mark. Plus, he doesn't know what type of power or power boost Sasuke may get while he's away from the Leaf Village. And here is where we would have our time skip into Shippuden. 3 years would pass, and the next time we see Naruto was when he was training with his older brother. His hair was now longer, and some of it was tied up as the rest would hang down. Illumi slammed his fist into Naruto's stomach, but Naruto stood firm as he hit him back, and the two siblings would go back and forth until their father arrived. Silver would tell Naruto that the Hokage has requested for him once again, and Naruto would nod, running off to the Hokage's building. He walks in to see Tamari and Shikamaru, as Tsunade then explains what's been going on in the Sand Village and why she's here. They need to get a team together to save Gaara and the one-tailed beast, as the Akatsuki are now making their move. Naruto nods, tilting his head back towards his clan compound, wondering, I'll see if I can get him to help. He's gotten lazy these couple of months. Tsunade nods and tells Naruto to meet him back here in just a couple minutes after getting him. Naruto would then go back to his house and walks upstairs into his room as he looks at this large bump within his bed as he pulls the cover off to see the nine-tailed fox. What is it now, brat? We have to go to the sand to save Gaara. And you'll be able to get whatever you want. I want sleep. That's fine, you can get it on the way. I'm not sitting in your back. You move too fast for me to rest, brat. Okay, well stay here until I summon you, and you better answer. I'll be checking on you to make sure you're still awake. Kurama would snarl and pull the covers back over himself as he would go back to sleep. Naruto then runs back to the Hokage's office after gathering supplies, and then Team Kakashi and Team Guy would head out. As they would travel, Naruto says, he stays in contact with Kurama to make sure that he was ready. Eventually, they would arrive at the gate of the sand and Tamari would help them get into the village. And first, she takes them to the hospital. And this is when they run inside and Granny Chiyo would attack not only Kakashi, but Naruto, seeing their white and gray hair. After Tamari explains who they are, she would calm down, and then Sakura began healing those who were injured and extracted the poison from Kankuro's body. Once this was done, the team would head out again to catch up to the Akatsuki duo, and when they caught up to them, it was already too late, as Gaara was already dead, and Naruto's eyes would lock with Deidara's, who was sitting on the chest of Gaara. The blonde had a smug smirk on his face until he felt the cold presence of Naruto, who began walking his way with no expression. Suddenly, blue lightning appeared as it lit up the entire cave-like area, shaking it as well. As Naruto stopped walking once he was fully in Godspeed, as he extended his arm and pointed his finger at Deidara. "I'll kill you both with my bare hands," he would say, as then he would vanish from everyone's sight as the cave would then darken once again, but then it re-lit up as Naruto would then, Deidara returns hearing a slow, breaking noise as he then saw, what he could see was Naruto with his hand through Sasori's puppet. As Naruto would then throw the puppet his way, Deidara was forced to dodge, and then an explosion would happen in the cave, causing it to start to crumble. Using his insane speed, Naruto rescued everyone, and then they were now outside, as they looked forward to see Deidara standing on a clay bird with 20 puppets in front of him, and these puppets rushed forward at Team 7 and Team Guy. Naruto led the attack, dodging all the puppets and going straight for the blonde, while everyone else would be attacking the puppets so that Naruto could get through. Deidara, upon seeing Naruto coming right at him, sent more clay birds and bombs, but Naruto ran through them, taking all the damage head on. The white-haired boy would then grab a kunai from his bag while jumping into the air and threw it so fast that it went through Deidara's shoulder. He would scoff, saying how the assassin clan is more troublesome than Toby made it seem. No wonder he made that plan. Naruto appeared on the clay bird with Deidara and began to punch him over and over. Naruto's knuckles, they became bloody from all the damage he had caused, but as he got ready to finish Deidara off, the blonde began to expand and turn white. As a large explosion would then begin to happen, Naruto would cover as much of his body as he could, as he would block a lot of the damage to his face. However, the rest of his body, you could see burn marks, and his skin was bright red from taking the attack head on. Deidara jumped back, making some smart comments about the dead Gaara and Naruto, but then he saw the seal upon Naruto's stomach. This was due to his shirt being blown off from the explosion. "So, you're a Jinchuriki as well, and since you're from the leaf, you're the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, the last one we need." Naruto would scoff, standing back straight up, as his eyes would then become red, as his hair would now fall in front of his face as he let it down, as he then drawed on the power of the Nine Tails once again, as it had been so long since he had done so. We left off with the red eyes of Naruto glaring at Deidara as his teeth became sharper. Suddenly, Deidara's heart would drop, sensing that Naruto was taking him more serious. The white-haired teen vanished from everyone's sight, and Deidara wondered where Naruto had went and where he was going to come from next. But he felt a sharp pain through his chest. Looking down, he saw that Naruto, he saw the pale hand of Naruto that was through his chest. As from behind him, he heard the voice of Naruto. "Your death was inevitable. All that talk, all that skill, just to be killed by someone like me." Deidara tried to move, but he couldn't. Struggling forced him to cough up more and more blood. As the blonde looked up, He saw all the puppets being shattered by Kakashi and Sakura, as well as the real body of Sasori. There was only one thing he could do now. He had to use it. Pulling out his trump card, he began to expand and turn white. He noticed that Naruto pulled his arm out and he gripped his sides. Deidara yelled out that there was no hope for any of them to escape, but Naruto smirked. Who said anything about escaping? As Naruto would sprint off while holding Deidara and then tossed him into the sky with all his force. This caused him to explode while being in the air away from everyone else, but Naruto was still hit by some of the explosion. When Team 7 finds Naruto, he was laying on the ground with more burn marks than before, but he was breathing. Naruto rolled over to his back and sat up, slowly feeling the damage that was done to his body. What a pain. The Hokage is gonna owe me for this one. Where's Gaara's body? The least we could do is return it to the sand. Kakashi looks at Naruto as he would then say, "That won't be necessary." This is when Gaara walks over to Naruto and thanks him. Don't mention it, but as the Kage, I expect you to become stronger. The two teams will then start their journey. They start their journey back to the sand first, escorting Gaara there to make sure he got there safe. And then they started their journey back to the Leaf Village. And they wouldn't have any info about Orochimaru and Sasuke, so there was no rush to get back home. So while they traveled back to the Leaf, many things did happen, such as Sasuke betraying Orochimaru and forming his own squad, as well as the death of Azuma in the Land of Fire by Hidan. By the time that Team Azuma did return to base is when Team 7 and Team 9 returned as well. Naruto wondered what kind of jutsu would be able to defeat these Akatsuki members, especially Hidan, who doesn't seem like he could die from just regular attacks. But Kurama made his own suggestion. He tells Naruto that he will teach him how to form a Biju bomb. So Naruto will go off to train by himself and to master it within a couple days. Now, Team 7 headed out with Team Azuma to take down the Akatsuki duo. Naruto wasn't worried about Hidan, as Shikamaru promised that he'll be able to do it on his own. Arriving in an open area, they would find them, and without any time being wasted, Naruto rushed at Kakuzu. Hidan tried to attack the Jinchuriki, but his attack was blocked by Kakashi, and then he was forced into a shadow possession by Shikamaru, who then runs off with Hidan. Naruto goes back and forth with his opponent, realizing there was no other way to end the battle. He would jump back, using both his hands with a crazy amount of focus as he began to sweat just from trying to perform this jutsu or technique. He created a small Biju bomb within his hand, rushing back at Kakuzu, who just tries to block the attack. Naruto would get direct contact, which was what he needed. Once the attack lands, a huge explosion happens and it blows everyone and everything away. Every piece of Kakuzu was just gone, as there was nothing left. This large attack really just burnt him to nothing but ash. And by this time, Shikamaru would have gotten his revenge on Hidan. Far away from this battle, Sasuke would have began his real hunt for Itachi. And within the Leaf Village, Jiraiya would be assigned a dangerous mission to go to the Hidden Rain. But this is when someone else would decide to go with him as well. Silva, the Zodiac clan head, will accompany the Sannin on his dangerous mission. The two would eventually enter the village after weeks of travel. They make their way deeper and deeper into the village until they see a purple-haired woman standing above them. Jiraiya would whisper her name as the paper wings appear on her back. Konan. Silva got ready to rush at the woman until he felt another presence. It was more like multiple instead of one. On instinct, he jumped back while grabbing Jiraiya. They looked back at where they heard the loud crash, and this is when they saw the paths of pain. Silva, before getting ready to fight in his mind, would say, I love you both. This may be my final battle, so don't hold it against me. The fight starts, and the two Leaf Warriors get rushed by the three paths each. The animal path summoned beasts that Silva was able to dodge and kick away. As fast as he could, he would destroy the animal path, but from behind him, while he wasn't focused, the Ashura path appeared, and he made a blade trying to cut off his arm. As the blade made contact, it could barely go through Silva's thick skin. Silva turned back around and smashed the head of this path as well. This fight was far from over though, as the animal path would get revived, and it summoned multiple beasts that attacked Silva. Over with Jiraiya, he had already lost an arm, but he was doing better since all the attention wasn't really on him. This was still too much for even two of them. Silva and Jiraiya will be pinned to the ground by chakra rods, and Jiraiya engraves a message into his toad before both of them were killed. As Naruto returns to the Leaf with his team, the first place he would go was to his clan's compound. He looks around his house for his father, but can only find Ilumi, who tells him that their father went on a mission. Naruto, of course, thought nothing of it, as this was very normal, until the next day. Both brothers would then be called into the Hokage's office, where they walked in to see Sakura, Tsunade, Kakashi, and Fukasaku, the old green toad. The green toad would sigh before saying, "Lord Jiraiya and Silva Zodiac have died in battle." Ilumi and Naruto's expressions would change. Naruto would shout out, "You're a liar. Our father is one of the strongest in the village. He's a master tactician as well as an S-class assassin, so who could kill him?" The toad looked at the boy directly in his eyes. "You won't believe my words, so instead, I'll give you something he told me to take with his final breath." Fukasaku holds out his hand, revealing a small necklace with a pendant. Naruto and Ilumi burst into tears, walking closer to look at the necklace. They open it to see themselves as kids with their father on one side. See themselves as kids with their father on one side, and on the other side was Ilumi's mother, who Naruto assumed was his mother as well. Everyone told the two brothers that they were sorry, but what they felt in the room was no longer sadness. What they felt was rage, anger, bloodlust. Naruto's eyes go red with a slit, while Ilumi's light blue eyes fade to darkness. The two brothers don't speak another word as they would take the pendant and they leave the Hokage's office and the Leaf Village. Days go by, then weeks, but no one has seen or heard anything from Naruto and Ilumi since they got the news about their father. And by this time, the pain assault would start, and the Leaf would be destroyed. As many thought all was over and the battle was lost, the entire village felt a strong pressure. As Sakura was laying on the ground, looking at a path of pain that was right in front of her, about to finish her off, she closed her eyes as she thought she was about to be stabbed. But she felt no pain. Looking up, she saw Naruto with electricity around him, but this electricity was different. The lightning that surrounded Naruto now was purple. The path of pain that stood in front of him was a human path, and with a flick of his finger and a quick movement that Naruto, as he disappeared, this quick movement made it look as if Naruto didn't even move, as the path of pain would be shattered. If you were to slow it down to see what truly happened, we would see Naruto, who landed 40 hits in seconds before returning to his original position. Naruto walks by Sakura, not even paying attention to her after saving her life. Naruto then saw the Diva Path, who prepared to use another almighty push. But as this attack was launched, Naruto vanished, and the Diva Path wondered where Naruto went. But this path was also destroyed, and we go across the village to see Ilumi sitting on the destroyed body of 4 paths of pain, meaning that this fight was truly over and there were no other paths alive, Naruto and Ilumi leave the village and start their hunt to track down, well, the real Pain, who they don't know is Nagato, but that's who they're tracking down. Eventually, I do believe the two would find him, but when they do, things wouldn't go like how they did in canon. When they found Nagato, there was no mercy for him. First, the two of them ripped the head of Konan off right in front of him, and then Naruto glared at Nagato. So, you'll just continue the cycle of pain. This world truly isn't worth saving, nor are the people who live in it. Ilumi looked at Naruto as a younger brother would nod, and the two vanished before Nagato could even say another word. Two hands would pierce his chest at the same time. As Nagato's lifeless body began to fall to the ground, Naruto grabbed his neck, holding his fist, and then he punched him to the ground, making him slam into it. Ilumi would walk back over to the entrance of the cave and walked out, sitting on a rock that was outside. For days, Ilumi sat down, waiting for his brother to leave the cave, but all he could hear was loud crashes. One afternoon, as it was raining, Ilumi looked at the cave entrance and saw Naruto walking out with blood all over his body and tears rolling down his face. Ilumi would stand, and he pulled Naruto close. Hours later, the brothers returned to the Leaf to see it starting to be rebuilt. And one of the buildings that was rebuilt was the Hokage's office. However, they are told that the Hokage as of now is Danzo, and he's already left for the Hokage summit. Neither of them cared that much, so they would continue on as usual until Tsunade awakens from her coma. During his free time, Naruto only thought about the Akatsuki. He wasn't satisfied. Well, he was a little satisfied that he killed Nagato, but he knows that this won't be over until they're all dead, and this is where his dissatisfaction came from. Eventually, Tsunade would wake up, and here, Naruto wouldn't be sent to the island with Killer Bee due to Ilumi protecting him. He wants Naruto to see the war with his own eyes and fight. Naruto not having a signature jutsu would affect the war, but I'll just be replacing most of his clones with the Zoldyck clan, who will be participating as well. Naruto and Ilumi stood on the main battlefield where Madara Uchiha would appear. Ilumi and Naruto step up to fight, both activating Godspeed. Blue and purple blurs fly around the battlefield and the Uchiha, hitting him from multiple angles. But using his Sharingan, he was able to counter and block a lot of these attacks. Naruto threw a punch, but it was stopped by Susanoo. Using the blades of it, Madara tried to attack the brothers. Naruto and Ilumi were too fast, as they couldn't break through the Susanoo, but they could dodge his attacks. So, Naruto pulled out something that he's been holding back for a while, as he would then turn off Godspeed and show off KCM. And this will be the one we see more towards the end of the war arc when Naruto and Kurama have their bond. As Naruto enters his form, Madara instantly recognizes the power of the Nine Tails. But this was something he never accomplished, causing him to scoff after processing it. Naruto appeared in front of him, slamming his fist through the revived Uchiha Susanoo and himself. Ilumi would follow up with a kick that sends one of his arms flying off of his body. Before Madara could even start to regenerate, he felt chakra in the air building up. He would turn his head to see a tail beast bomb. Extending his last arm, he then unlocked his Rinnegan as he would absorb the attack. How pitiful. Madara would then launch both brothers back down to the Alliance, as Naruto notices that the sky became very dark, and as he looks up, he sees a meteor falling down. There was no way for any of them to run away fast enough to dodge it, so, putting both of his hands together, he summons Kurama, and the two will try to hold it up with everything they've got, with the help from the Stone and Sand Kage. Eventually it would stop, But Madara would ask, "And what are you going to do about the next one?" Naruto's eyes would widen as he feels the pressure of another meteor that began to fall, and Kurama and him would start to push the first one back up. Using a tail beast bomb, they would launch it into the air, and they made it so big that it would destroy both of them. Naruto would go back into his regular form, where you could tell that he was visibly tired. And this is when a masked man would appear next to Madara. Naruto looked at both of them, knowing that the real fight was about to start now. Obito warps onto the main battlefield, standing next to Madara. They start a small conversation about what's been going on while Madara wasn't alive, and the Uchiha began to glow. It felt as if he was returning to the afterlife, but he wouldn't have that now. After all the work he's done, he can't go back. So, he would use his Rinnegan, and he stopped his own death using Rinne Rebirth to basically revive himself, making it so that he stayed alive. Madara looked down upon Naruto and got ready to fight him once again. However, the 5 Kage would appear next to Naruto's side. Madara laughed at seeing them and rushed forward anyway, and he knew they were no match, as the Raikage stepped up using a lightning mode to gain more speed, but Madara stopped him by grabbing his face and slamming it into the ground. His gaze would then turn to see lava coming at him, but using the Rinnegan, he was still able to absorb it. Tsunade then jumped up from behind him, and Madara tried to slam his fist. She tried to slam her fist into Madara, but a blue Susanoo ribcage would appear. "Foolish woman, do you believe that you have that kind of strength that could even touch me?" Naruto sends out another Biju bomb while he was distracted, but the Susanoo would evolve before everyone's very eyes, gaining arms and a blade. No, blades that were used to block and repel the attack back towards Naruto. As Naruto gets ready to send it back into the air, a man would appear in front of him as the Biju bomb would then vanish. The man was wearing red and white robes with a leaf headband on his forehead, and he had white hair, just like Naruto. And then many more people would appear as well. These were the past 4 Kage, and this would be the first time that Naruto had actually seen his real father. Minato turned around to Naruto and asked him if he could still fight. Naruto nodded and followed the 4 Kage in, fighting side by side with them. Naruto and the 4th Hokage would go for the masked man, while the last 3 Kage would go for Madara himself. And since there was no Ten Tails, everyone was less distracted, as more of their focus was really just on these 2. Minato was able to catch the masked man off guard many times using the flying Raijin, while Naruto was just fast enough to land attacks before the masked man was able to phase body parts away. After seeing Minato use the Rasengan, Naruto realized that he must have knew Jiraiya, and the 2 kept on blitzing the masked man until Naruto would rip his head off using an assassin technique. Minato after would then walk over to his son, telling him how he expects no less from his own blood. Naruto would then push him away, being confused and asking what he meant. And Minato would just explain how Naruto is his son. Naruto didn't want to believe it. After hearing him out, it all added up, and the 2 turned, gazing back to Madara, who had been defeated by the 3 Kage and sealed by those in the Shinobi Alliance. Sasuke, who had also made it to the battlefield, would then declare that he wants to mold the world in his own image. However, before he could attack the tired Naruto, his heart was then ripped out by Illumi, who would then say, "I'll always protect you no matter how strong you get." "Oh, hey Lord Fourth, how did you get here?" Naruto was shocked that his elder brother actually knew this man, and Illumi would explain how they really aren't blood, and Naruto didn't care, as it always felt like they were, and he was always there like a real brother, so it didn't really mess with him. But Naruto did find it cool that his father was the 4th Hokage. And his father then began to disappear, as many of the revived shinobi were beginning to get sealed. And this is where our story would truly end. I hope you guys have enjoyed it all the way through, just as I have. And I figured I'd try to get this video out as soon as possible since it was so short. So, make sure to like and subscribe, as I do have a lot more coming out this year. If you are new to my channel though, make sure to subscribe and to share these videos. This is Zero, and I'll catch you all on the next one.